Sorry, did you?
Yeah, just a question. Like my meditation now is too basic to know whether nagas exist or not, obviously. But I've heard it said that they're there to protect the Dharma or knowledge or teachings or something. And the question is whether, like, what are they trying to protect? The teachings from? Like, is there something that they're supposed to be guarding against? Might seem silly, but that's a curious thing in my mind.
In strictly speaking, in the scriptures, the Buddha didn't talk about this. Nagas, they protect the Dhamma, all this kind of thing. This is more a cultural thing that has come up. People talk about that, but the Buddha didn't talk like that.
So we don't have to worry about it as being something serious then. Just because I see that on the statues.
Correct, you don't need to worry about it. Don't need to think of it. One of the underlying principles of the Buddhist teachings is to not believe in something or hold to something that you cannot really know it through reasoned reflection. So if it's something just what other people say or what we suspect is true or superstition or any of these things, this is considered, to believe in something without being able to fully prove it through your own investigation, your own wise reflection, is considered inauspicious and not a wise belief. So therefore, something like this, you just put it to one side. So you can't see them, you don't know them, you can't prove it, then just put it to one side. If one's to believe too much in the things that one can't really know or experience or prove, then it's not a good foundation for developing your practice.
Yeah, just one question. In sharing merit at the end of the day to all beings, relatives and whatnot, and using the chants that we have, the selection of chants, sharing merits and so forth, is the actual, can it be two dynamics? Is one where one's action one's doing is automatically being shared by living this life, or one has to actually create that intention to wanting to share and make it like a little ritual ceremony? That's very important.
In terms of the ritual part, it's more just for a sense of personal well-being and happiness to say, well, I've dedicated this merit to somebody, to our parents or somebody. In fact, the teaching is more one of a recollection of the goodness that our parents have done for us, or those who have brought us up in the world. And one is repaying, expressing one's gratitude, one's debt of gratitude through the practice by recollecting and revering or respecting them and the good that they've done. So it's more of a meditation in that respect. One is consciously recollecting that through one's practice and doesn't forget that. The sort of ritual part, we say, well, sit down and dedicate merit to this person, to our parents, to our grandparents. That's more of a ritual to make you feel good. In terms of Dhamma, we share whatever Dhamma we've understood through the practice with them to help them to improve their state of mind, experience more sense of well-being, help them free themselves from suffering. In practical terms, if there's anything we can do to relieve their stress, their suffering, particularly in old age, as they get older, if they're falling sick, if there's anything we can do like nursing them or supporting them in any way through the dukkha of old age and sickness. When they actually die, then to take responsibility to organise the funeral in the correct way, look after literally the body and make sure the body is the funeral is performed correctly, and from the moment when they die through to say cremating the body or burying the body, all that your duty is to make sure that's all done properly. So also another part of that is, say, when they die, is to make sure that one uses the opportunity to do the right thing in fitting for them with their friends and in the social circles that they've moved in, the people they know, relatives and friends. So you will have ceremonies, say, where you might have monks come and you make offerings. You have and invite all the friends, family, friends, relatives to come and join in, participate in those kind of events to show, to honour your parents' memory. You arrange events like that where you're also doing something beneficial for society. Maybe make offerings to support the religion, or do charity. People do charity at that time in the name of their parents. The meaning of this is to show that we're not one who is stingy or selfish. We take it as an opportunity to practice generosity, think of other people as well as our parents, think of other people we're related to or had involvement with through our lives and through their lives. And continuing about the theme of generosity, we practice generosity outwardly, say by arranging an event, offerings, making offerings to the Sangha. But you also, it's something you're developing as generosity of heart through the practice. It's not just a physical thing. You're developing the mental side of it to counter one's tendency towards possessiveness, stinginess. So they brought up the Vaisantara Jataka tale, the one where the Buddha was perfecting generosity in that life, and the different characters in that. Most of them are symbolising different forms of stinginess, possessiveness, attachment to one's family and possessions, and just the sort of endless craving of the mind, never satisfied with what it's got, always seeking more, and sort of all stimulated by a craving and greed. Just brought that up as a reflection. One part of the aspect of the teachings is what we call Bukkala Adhitthana, where points of Dhamma teachings are put into stories or personified. So you have suttas which it relates to a particular story or an event. This person did that, and what was the Dhamma in that, and the good or the bad Dhamma in that. Or the Jatakas, we have an actual story, it's like a story of somebody's life, and this happened, that happened, to point out themes of Dhamma. This is one way of teaching. Dhamma Adhitthana is where you just point to the principle of Dhamma or principle of truth. You don't necessarily have to mention a person or put it into like a story form, but it's just saying, well, this is like this, the truth is like this.
For me, my parents aren't good, so it's very hard to arrange funeral, to get the family to, Sangha. Should I, as a monk, be very careful when haggling them, to encouraging them? What does Lupo suggest?
The important thing is to see that as the child of your parents, it's your duty to arrange a funeral. That's your first sort of reflection. If your relatives are not Buddhists, it doesn't matter. You still have that duty. Doesn't change that.
Okay.
So then you might have to indirectly do it in an indirect way. so that obviously you're not clashing with views and opinions on different religious beliefs.
Yeah.
So you still involve yourself to do this duty, perform this duty, and complete it. And in the end, you take what is convenient for everyone as your guideline. So if everyone wants to have a Christian funeral, that's okay. You can have that, and you participate in that. You're indirectly also helping to make merit in different ways. So you just fit in with whatever that will fit with them. But you have to still do your duty of performing a funeral, sorting that out till the end of it.
That's right. I make sure everything is there.
You did it fine.
ทำหน้าที่เคารพศพ
Thailand, they have this term "karop sok," showing respect for the dead person. So you take that as your foundation. It doesn't matter whether it's a Christian funeral, Buddhist funeral. The important thing is the respect for the dead. It cuts through the sort of more superficial ritual of it, or the superficial religious practices. Make sure you keep your respect, and that respect is shown for the dead. The heart of it is showing the reverence, the respect, and giving importance to the role they've played for you. They sacrifice for you, bringing you up, bringing you into the world, bringing you up. And it's recognising, appreciating that sacrifice in an appropriate way. So you keep that at the foremost of your mind, say, as you're conducting a funeral ceremony. It's that you're expressing your appreciation, gratitude for all that they've done for you. You can say your debt, or that relationship of having received so much from your parents. That's what we call being heedful. One is responding appropriately to the fact that your parents have sacrificed for you, so you want to sacrifice for them at this time and to arrange their funeral and look after that as a way of acting appropriately at that time. To not do that would be heedless and careless, just to ignore the fact that they've done so much for you in the past. So the debt we have to our parents and that relationship is very, very important to always remember that. So, for example, at Wabapong, he emphasises for all the people who attend the monastery to frequently recollect the virtues of their parents, the virtuous behaviour and the good that their parents have done, and then to make an effort to somehow to show their gratitude through bringing their parents into the Dhamma more as a way of repaying. So sometimes they actually have events which are like gratitude to parents, days or talks about this, and then generally as a theme to try, if the children come to the monastery, well then to try and get the children, if the parents have never done dana, get them to bring the parents in to do some dana so that they know what dana is like and the benefits of it. If the parents have never kept the precepts very strictly, then if it's the children who are the ones coming to the monastery, we'll get the parents to come to keep the precepts, understand the value of the precepts. Say, for instance, if one of the parents drinks alcohol regularly, then to try and get them to come and give up drinking, keep the 5 precepts, the 5th precept. Or could be smoking. Sometimes they have a day when people come and they just make their determination to give up smoking, and the children can encourage the parents to do that. Or if the parents have never done meditation, well, the children can bring them to the monastery to practice meditation, encourage them to hear Dhamma, learn how to meditate. This is where, if it's the child who has come into the Dhamma before the parents, well, that's the way they can repay their debt and help the parents out in a very significant way by getting them to practice Dhamma more. This is one of the important benefits of coming into the monastery, whether it's young people or old people, and say if it's people new to Buddhism, that we can encourage is to see the value of generosity practiced on the widest level, say supporting society and people everywhere in general, both as an attitude and then in practical terms. So, say people come to the monastery, just the simple sort of practices we do, things like the offering of Sanghadana, getting them to understand why do we offer Sanghadana is a very good teaching, especially for newcomers. We offer Sanghadana, that is dana offered for the entire Sangha and the laity also who come to depend on the monastery. It goes as we do our chant, the Apolokana Dhamma, it's for the senior monks, the junior monks, and obviously as lay people, they use them as they wish. That's getting people to understand the benefit of practicing generosity for the widest group of people, widest number of people. Establishing that kind of attitude is fundamental to the practice, and a monastery is a very good place for developing that. So we have many ways we do that. There's Sanghadana, there's other opportunities to practice dana in the monastery. Say at Wabapong they have this, when they have the meditation retreat times, like in January, they have what they call dana tents. These dana tents where food is cooked and given away. He doesn't like to say dana tents, he just calls it an opportunity to practice giving up of one's time, one's effort and material things to support others in the practice. So they arrange these dana tents, people come and cook, and also he emphasises, to do it in the most appropriate way is have a limit on when people eat, and not just all day, all night, any time, but you have it, say, in the mornings, and then what they make in these dana tents to actually try and produce healthy food, organically produce food, and even use this mix of the enzyme mix into rice porridge, and giving that out. They were also getting people to spray the rice, the enzyme mixture as a sort of spray around the monastery just to keep the dust down, to fertilise the trees and to purify the air in a small way, and that had a very good effect. People were coughing and spluttering a lot less this year than in previous years. But the whole point is to get people to have that sense of doing things that are beneficial not just for themselves but also for the greater society, the greater good, whether it's material dana, looking after the environment, and developing just sensitivity to other people, what their needs are. And this is something that a monastery is a very good place for encouraging people to learn about this.
So it's not wrong if your family or your direct relatives aren't really, they're respective, and because you've been doing it a long time, they sort of say, okay, that's your thing, what you do, they're not really interested, but they have that sort of air of respect, they don't make jokes of what you're doing or anything like that. It's still a good thing to encourage them to come to the monastery, even though they're not really showing the effusion, to give that opportunity to them at least. I think that's a good thing to do, or to just totally just be aloof or something.
Of course, you can gently encourage them to consider coming to the monastery, but it should never be something you force. You don't want to force them to do it. But when sometimes you talk to them and say, you might encourage them to come to the monastery, it might be good for them, open up expose them to some new input, some new views on things, and they'll possibly bring up their own reasons why they don't want to come. You might, in that discussion, could discuss, what is it that they don't want to come? You might find that there's some reason there. You might say, better, all intents and purposes, they have more selfish reasons. They don't want to do more selfish things. So you might start trying to help them look at their own reasoning behind what they do and why they do it. So it's not forcing them to come here, but just look at, well, why do they do things in life? What do they think is important in life? Get them to look. And he gave the example of Diganaka, the Brahmin, who came to see the Buddha with that famous sort of occasion where the Buddha was questioning him, and he says, well, I only accept and want what I like in life. Everything I don't want, I don't like, I don't accept. It's not for me. That's the way I practice. And the Buddha said, well, is that really in line with truth? If you think like that, what about old age, sickness and death, separation from all you love and like? These things are things that you don't want, but they'll definitely come to you. And it made him change his opinion, his view on life, that he realised that there is actually a lot of things that I don't want, I don't like, that still come to me, I can't avoid. And the Buddha said, well, this view that you have, you only accept, you only take up what you want in life, even that view is not really correct for you, it's not appropriate for you, because it's impossible to do that, to just have the things you like and want in life all the time. It's impossible. And managed to change his view in that conversation. That's just a line of approach you could take with them to see where they might change some of their views, if you can see that their view is caught into delusion or resisting truth in some way. And so one of the ways is to get them to think more about doing things that are beneficial for society as a whole, in whatever way. Practice generosity, think about other people as well as themselves. But obviously he said you also have to have that patience and equanimity, and just know, well, if they're not ready to come to the monastery, that's fine. You just carry on meeting them at home or wherever you can, and when the time is right, maybe they'll come. Willing to wait.
Basically, I don't too scared. They're argumentative and they block off. And they're very tempting to feel a bit afraid. I don't feel I have the power and the pull to bring up all these things. I get sort of a bit nervous.
It says if you have a conversation and their opinion, their view is very strong, and they get different or against what you say, fine, you just let that go. Don't get into an argument. You never want to fall into arguments or try and push them or pressure them into seeing things the way you are. So that's the worldly way. It says the worldly way is you want to win an argument, that's Mara, that desire to win the argument. The way of a monk, a monk is willing to give in. You're willing to accept, they have their view, fine, that's their view, I'm not going to argue with them, I'm not going to fight that. That's the way of the monk. The way of the world is to try and always win over people and get the better of them in arguments. It says our attachment to views, sense of self in that, the conceit around that, this is something very difficult to let go of, and we have to keep watching and working with this through the practice. It leads us to constantly, the sense of self and the self-view will lead us to into conflict with other people. I'm right, you're wrong. So it's something we have to keep practicing with to let go of. You might even consider your own attachment to the perception, these are my relatives, my family, and adjust that to see, well, actually everyone is our relatives, all people are. Widen that view. If you take the Buddha's life as an example, and the Buddha couldn't or didn't go and teach his father straight away after the enlightenment. He waited quite a long time, because he saw if he went straight away to his father wasn't ready to receive teachings. It wouldn't have been conducive for him to understand the Dhamma yet, because he was still full of his own sense of self, his pride, his attachment to his position as a father, position in as the ruler of the country, and so on. the Buddha was wise enough to see all that, so he didn't rush back to the palace, even though the father sent many times people to invite him back. He didn't go. He taught elsewhere first, and taught some of the other relatives, got them to understand Dhamma first, so that had an effect to sort of start to bring up the father's interest when he can see other people in the wider circle of the family were becoming had growing faith in the Buddha and were understanding the teachings. And then when the time was right, then the Buddha went back and taught his father. The Buddha came obviously from a rich, powerful family, so he had to change the way obviously he himself related, because he was giving that up, went out into the forest, and now he's seeing through the attachments of all that. And he also, over time, had to change their way of looking at him and their way of looking at the world, looking at themselves. Kata, are you awake?
Yeah, what's the name?
Sorry, you look like you're asleep.
No, I'm deep meditation.
Yeah. He had to change their outlook over time. He's no longer acting in the same way as before. Now he's a monk, shaven head and robes. He goes out in the morning on Bindabata. He lives very simply in the forest. He's not going to act in the same way anymore, like always be there at their side, giving them material support and physically living with them all the time. So it took a while for them to adapt and adjust to that new lifestyle. And he just had to keep teaching, and over time keep teaching the whole of his group of relatives and family, and teaching the king, his father. And then over time he did get them to turn around and lower their sense of self or self-importance, so that they could receive the Dhamma, and he could really teach them. But it took time.